Imagine a world where joy is outlawed, where festive cheer is met with the cold steel of the law, and where celebrating the birth of Christ could land you in prison. This isn't some dystopian novel. This is a true story, a chilling chapter in British history that most people have either forgotten or never even learned. For nearly 2 decades, Christmas, as we know it, was banned in England. But why? What radical shift in societal values could possibly lead to such an extreme measure, criminalizing a holiday that now defines the heart of winter for millions? And what happened to the people who dared to defy this ban, to clandestinely light their candles and share their forbidden feasts? The answers plunge us into a period of religious fervor, political upheaval, and a clash of ideologies that fundamentally reshaped a nation. This isn't just about a holiday, it's about control, faith, and the enduring spirit of defiance. To truly grasp the bizarre reality of a Christmas ban, we need to transport ourselves back to 17th century England, a land simmering with religious and political tension. The spark for this monumental shift wasn't a sudden decree, but rather a slow-burning fire ignited by a radical Protestant movement known as Puritanism. These Puritans, whose influence grew exponentially throughout the early 1600s, were deeply earnest, ultra-pious individuals who believed the Church of England, despite breaking from Rome, was still far too Catholic. They saw elaborate rituals, ornate churches, and especially festive holidays as remnants of paganism and popery, distractions from true pious worship. Christmas, in particular, was a major target. For centuries, Christmas had been a raucous, almost carnival-like festival, a 12-day period of feasting, drinking, dancing, and general merriment. It involved everything from caroling and mumming to elaborate banquets and gift-giving. For the Puritans, this unrestrained revelry was an abomination. They argued, quite correctly, that the Bible never specified December 25th as Christ's birthday, and therefore celebrating it with such extravagance was an unholy invention of man rather than a divine commandment. They considered it wasteful, morally corrupt, and a breeding ground for idleness and sin, a stark contrast to their ideal of constant, sober devotion. Their vision was a society purged of superstition and frivolous excess, disciplined and God-fearing. And to achieve this, they would systematically dismantle anything they deemed unholy, starting with the nation's most beloved holiday. The initial moves were subtle, almost experimental. In the years leading up to the English Civil War, Puritan-dominated Parliament began to chip away at the edges of Christmas. Sermons denouncing the holiday became common. Pamphlets circulated, condemning the heathenish practices associated with Yuletide. But the real hammer fell in 1642, when the Civil War erupted, pitting royalists against parliamentarians. As Parliament gained the upper hand, so too did Puritan ideology solidify its grip on power. In 1643, a directory for public worship was introduced, which technically replaced the Book of Common Prayer and, crucially, omitted any mention of Christmas as a holy day. This was a clear signal, but not yet a full ban. The atmosphere was one of increasing disapproval, a chill wind blowing through the festive season. People were still celebrating, but they felt the eyes of the authorities watching. The escalating tension reached a boiling point in 1647. Oliver Cromwell's new model army, the disciplined backbone of the Puritan cause, had secured victory. With the king defeated and Parliament firmly in control, a radical ordinance was passed, an act for abolishing all festivals and for better observation of the Lord's Day. This wasn't merely a suggestion, it was law. Christmas, Easter, and Whitsun were formally abolished. Shops were ordered to remain open, and business was expected to continue as usual. Anyone caught observing these superstitious festivals faced fines, imprisonment, or public shaming. The traditional Christmas dinner, the communal carols, the decorating of homes with holly and ivy, all were now acts of defiance, laden with risk. The public reaction was swift and fierce. People did not simply roll over and accept this imposition. They resisted, sometimes openly, often clandestinely. In London, riots erupted. Apprentices and common folk clashed with soldiers tasked with enforcing the ban, chanting, "No Christmas, no King," a clear link between the abolished holiday and their longing for the deposed monarchy. In Canterbury, a mob took control of the city for weeks, demanding Christmas be reinstated. Throughout the country, local communities found ways to secretly celebrate. They would gather in barns or remote homes, carefully drawing curtains, speaking in hushed tones, continuing their traditions away from prying eyes. Soldiers patrolled the streets on December 25th, forcibly opening shops that remained closed and confiscating food being prepared for forbidden feasts. Imagine the fear. A knock at the door, the stern faces of the authorities expecting to find you observing a sacred day, only to punish you for it. It was a complete inversion of cultural norms, a direct assault on the very fabric of community life. The enforcement of the Christmas ban reached unprecedented levels of severity during the Protectorate under Oliver Cromwell, who became Lord Protector in 1653. His rule was marked by an unwavering commitment to Puritan ideals, and this meant an even stricter crackdown on anything deemed immoral or ungodly. Christmas wasn't just discouraged, it was actively suppressed with almost military precision. Trained informants, known as moral police or triers and ejectors, were dispatched across the country, their task to ferret out any signs of festive cheer. These weren't benevolent community figures. They were enforcers, often zealous ex-soldiers, who would report on neighbors, search private homes, and ensure public houses offered no Yuletide merriment. Even the mere appearance of a sprig of holly or ivy in a window could invite scrutiny, a fine, or worse. Imagine the economic devastation this caused. For centuries, Christmas had been a peak season for trade, a time when artisans, cooks, and merchants made a significant portion of their annual income. The ban effectively shut down this economic engine, leading to widespread hardship and resentment. The ban on traditional entertainment, such as plays, dancing, and even sports, further amplified the gloom that descended upon the nation. Cromwell's government wasn't just trying to make people more religious. They were attempting to fundamentally reshape society's leisure, its economy, and its very spirit. Yet despite the formidable apparatus of the state, complete suppression proved impossible. The people's longing for their traditions, their deep-seated cultural memory of Christmas, was too strong. The ban became a symbol of tyrannical overreach, a constant source of friction between the government and its people. It fostered a deep undercurrent of discontent that simmered beneath the surface of Cromwell's outwardly pious state. The cost of maintaining this ban, both financially and in terms of societal goodwill, was immense. It was a battle of wills, a test of how far a government could push its moral agenda onto a populace deeply ingrained in its own cultural practices. The eventual collapse of the Christmas ban is intrinsically linked to the broader failure of the Puritan regime. When Oliver Cromwell died in 1658, the Protectorate quickly unraveled. The societal fabric, strained by years of austerity, moral policing, and suppressed joy, was ready to snap. Parliament had often struggled to enforce the ban effectively outside of London or heavily garrisoned areas. The will of the people, despite being officially silenced, had found countless ways to endure. In 1660, with the restoration of the monarchy under King Charles II, the ban on Christmas was swiftly abolished. The joyful return of the king was mirrored by the equally joyful return of Christmas, and indeed, all the pagan festivities the Puritans had so vehemently condemned. Shops reopened, feasts were held, and the sound of carols once again filled the crisp winter air. It was a massive sigh of relief across the nation after nearly 20 years of enforced gloom. The Lord of Misrule returned, and with him, a vibrant public culture that had been temporarily driven underground. But the legacy of the Puritan Christmas ban lingered. While the overtly religious fervor faded, a certain somberness had entered the holiday. The raucous, almost lawless nature of pre-Puritan Christmas was somewhat tempered, replaced by a more family-centric and less overtly pagan celebration when it re-emerged. The ban serves as a chilling historical footnote, a stark reminder of what happens when religious zeal meets legislative power and attempts to control private life with an iron fist. It shows how profoundly human the need for celebration and tradition truly is, and how even the most powerful governments struggle to extinguish the cultural flames that burn in the heart of a nation. Today, as we light our trees and exchange gifts, it's worth remembering a time when such simple acts were radical, even dangerous, a testament to the enduring power of a holiday that, for a time, was almost lost.